Can you remember when I explained to you that painting is the study of all things? Well, here's probably a better example, a more elaborate example to show you what I was talking about. Obviously the background is a landscape, but it's only a stage for me to set some kind of story within it. And this particular story is of the slate quarries of North Wales during the 19th century. I wanted something to represent the harsh realities of working there. In this painting of 3 generations of the same family tipping a slate waste truck over the edge of a slate waste tip. So I'll explain to you, there's a lot of research that goes into this kind of historical painting, so it's genuinely correct. And one of the things I had to study was the clothes they wore. You imagine the clothes they wore in the 19th century would be much different to what I'm wearing here today, which is kind of a modern t-shirt. So I'll show you what kind of clothes they wore, which is what I had to research to get the painting quite correct. For example, their shirts. They wore white shirts that had a shorter collar than what we're used to today, like this one here. And I'll put this shirt on to show you the transformation of me from a modern person to a quarryman in the 19th century. And as I'm putting this shirt on, I'll explain to you a bit more about the painting. It was probably the first day for the young boy to work in a quarry. And he's quite proud of the moment, and he's with his father and his grandfather. And it's a job that doesn't require that much skill to do, really. But it is a tough job, and the little boy has to get used to every aspect of working in the quarry. So it's kind of a proud day for him. But he doesn't really look that enthusiastic, does he? He's looking off into the distance somewhere. So he's probably thinking to himself, well, okay, I'm working with my dad and granddad, but I'm not really liking what I'm doing. I just left school and I didn't really like the headmaster that much, but it was really better than what I'm doing today, which is really hard work. And all this slate dust is getting in my eyes and hurting my fingers and all this stuff going on. You notice he's wearing like a necktie, isn't he? A neck scarf, like a handkerchief around his neck to keep his neck warm. Well, it's probably similar to this one I have here. I'll show you how we put it on. But if you grab opposite corners and pull it into a triangle and wind it round and then throw it over your neck and tie it on, and it should keep your neck warm in the winter and in the windy weather, which was very common working out in the elements in such a place as this. Notice the background that's behind them. It's Mount Snowdon, which when I showed you on location, it's the genuine background there, which I chose to be symbolic of the area and the proud history of the slate quarries, which is still a proud subject. I was raised on stories of my great-granddad that worked in this quarry, which is the Dorothea Quarry, named after one of the daughters of one of the quarry owners. But what was so special about this quarry? It was the deepest man-made hole in the world at the time, which was 675 feet deep, and there were 16 ladders descending to the bottom, which my granddad had to descend every morning to be at the bottom of the hole by 7 o'clock in the morning to start work. And that was a very tough job, but you imagine you'd be knackered before starting, wouldn't you? Just by reaching the bottom. And that was after walking about 3 miles from the village he lived in. So imagine a hard day's work, and then you've got to ascend these 16 ladders to be back at the top, and then walk another 3 miles back home. So by the time you're home, you're going to be really shattered, aren't you? And you'll just have time for a small meal and then off to bed. Something else they wore were these caps, which was quite recognisable as a quarryman's cap in the area. Obviously they wore them in different industries, and they had this stud that kind of binded the visor bit into the cap, which gave you that certain look. Kind of makes you feel proud to be wearing this. Even the waistcoat kind of stiffens your back up and makes you feel proud of your occupation, like wearing as an artist. but it kind of makes my job interesting to research all this, and makes you feel like you've achieved something to come up with the proper attire for the painting. So I'll explain a bit more about the painting to you. They're tipping a slate waste truck, as I said, and you wouldn't believe how much research that went into the technique that was applied to tip this waste. They put about 2 tons of slate waste in each wagon, and it was pushed to the end of this slate heap, which they had to keep building the top to put a railway track on. And it took 2 guys at least to tip this wagon. Obviously there were 3 here, but the young boy wouldn't be that strong, would he? He's more there for work experience at the moment than anything else. But he's got to learn the different aspects of working, hasn't he? So imagine doing this all day, trying to lift these 2 tons of each wagon. But the ingenious design of these wagons was the wheel that was kind of central to the tipping part was quite central in the wagon. So as you started lifting one end of the wagon, all of a sudden it would kick over, because all this weight would kind of seesaw the balance this end of the wagon. So they would pull the truck over. To stop it going too far, they would have to tie a chain at the rear end here. So that would pull tight as the truck kind of reached the optimum height. And then at the bottom here they have the thicker chain across the tracks to stop these wheels going too far over. Obviously you'd still be wary of the safety of all this, wouldn't you? And there were many accidents doing this job. You still find these wagons at the bottom of the slate waste heaps. So it wouldn't be my favourite job in the quarry, it would be yours. As I said, the quarry hole in Dorothea was one of the deepest, it was the deepest man-made holes in the world at the time. There's probably a deeper one now that's made with machines and stuff, but at the time I would imagine it was quite an achievement, or would it be if you had to work at the bottom of it. And actually they used to say at the bottom it was so deep that when you looked up in daylight you could see the stars. I'm not sure how that works, but it was the stories they would say of the time. This truck was specific design for that quarry. It had the oak chassis and these specific spokes to the design of the wheels that were made in the foundry on site. So it's important for me as a painter to go right into the detail and get everything correct, down to the rivets on the side of the wagon. And you notice this hook that's hanging from a lug underneath the wagon. There was one each end of the wagon, and that's there for 2 reasons. It's there to latch on this chain at the back there to stop it going over, but it's also there when they were pushing these wagons towards the slate heaps, because they could bind 2 wagons together, hook them together like this, so they pulled in a train along the top of the slate waste heap. So yeah, do you mind? It's a very tough job, wasn't it? Different things are manipulated in this painting, going on observations obviously of what would happen. Have you noticed when you've tried to throw a bucket of dust away, it's guaranteed to blow back in your face, isn't it? So that's really what's going on here in this painting. Ironically, one of the major things that shortened the lives of the quarrymen was the inhalation of slate dust. The other one was pneumonia, was working in damp conditions. But the inhalation of slate dust led to silicosis and made the life expectancy, brought it down to about 48 years old. So you imagine all this slate dust they're inhaling every day. And ironically in this painting it represents all that, and provocatively it's dancing behind them as they're tipping the slate waste, and it's dancing behind them and being quite a sarcastic message in a sense. That's going to be the future for the young boy. So we've got to be kind of sympathetic towards their future.